Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. I'm Sue, and you've just stepped into Entrepreneurs Gone Wild. Every week, I'll introduce you to a friend of mine, a remarkable entrepreneur who's not just changing the world, but also harnessing a secret weapon, time outdoors. Together, we'll dive into their journey, unpack invaluable business advice, and discover why embracing the wild is not just good for the soul, but also a goldmine for inspiration and innovation. Ready to uncover the secret that's boosting bottom lines and fueling joy? Hit subscribe and join us in the wild.
Ladies and gentlemen, this one's going to be fun too. I'm excited to introduce to you Polly Hearsey. She's a mentor and guide for nature-loving entrepreneurs. See why she's here? They're seeking to align their businesses with the rhythms of the natural world. Polly works with individuals who are frustrated by traditional business approaches, helping them to reconnect with nature's cycles so they can create businesses that flow effortlessly and avoid burnout. That sounds pretty good. Through her Rewild Your Business, this is a membership for beginners and one-on-one mentoring for established entrepreneurs. Polly's empowering her and clients to tap into the sensory wisdom of nature to improve sustainable growth and live from an inspired place with their business. Get ready to meet an entrepreneur who's redefining business by blending it seamlessly with the wisdom of the natural world. Polly, I am so excited to talk with you.
I'm really excited.
So cool. This is so cool. All right, let's do the first question, which I always ask, which is, who do you serve and what problems are you helping to solve for them?
So I serve people who are frustrated by the norms of business. They don't like the feel of it. It doesn't feel good to them. And that they know that there's a different way, but they don't know what that way is. So I've spent my time working out what the alternatives are. The alternatives that make them feel that they're themselves, that they're being true to themselves, they're holding onto their values while they are in their business, because we all know that much of business can make us deviate from our values because that's what works. And so I use my time in nature to help them understand that nature operates by different rules. And if it's operating by different rules, then we don't have to operate by the rules that are the norm. We can find different ways of doing it. So that's really everything that I do, is about trying to say, how would nature do this? What examples are there in nature that show us a different way of thinking about it? And some of the basic principles of nature really contradict how we've set up society. You take something like collaboration, which is a central principle of nature, and you think, we have this business infrastructure that is competitive. I win, you lose. And it's like, but that's not how nature operates. So how can we, that challenges all of our thinking. It challenges how we see ourselves, and it challenges how we see what we can do with our business. So it's got no boundaries to it, if you know what I mean, because I can go wherever nature takes me. But really the purpose of this is to help people feel more true to themselves. And that's the other thing that we see in nature. Everything is true to itself. You know, whether that's a plant or an animal, it's doing its work in the world on its own terms. Well, surely that's accessible to us as well.
That is so cool. I've thought about like seasonality. I've thought about the law of germination and, you know, all these things. I had not even thought about that thing of, you know, they're true to itself.
Yeah, but I thought I had such a struggle, because I actually started with the elements and the seasons. That's how I got onto this path. But I had this real struggle of sort of like trying to understand this vision I have, where business is a part of the ecosystem. They're contributing to the ecosystem. I was like, well, how the hell do you achieve that? That is such a intangible idea. So it dawned on me one day, and I was outside when it dawned on me that actually it's about being true to yourself, because when you're operating from that space of truth to yourself, you're not doing any harm. You're not in an extractive, manipulative relationship with the natural world. you're being you, and therefore you are contributing to the beauty and diversity of life.
That is so cool. Like, you think about an apple tree. For it to, if I were an apple tree and I'm like, but I want to produce carrots, like, that's going to be a life full of frustration.
Yes.
You're not going to even see the value in, the apples that are growing, that are naturally just naturally happening.
And we do that all the time. We dismiss some of the things that are most extraordinary about ourselves because they don't fit inside a box. They're not nice and neatly labeled. So we say, well, that's not part of me. So a lot of what I've done in my business is helping people to integrate those unusual parts of themselves into their business and find a place. And it's at the most simple level, you might say that somebody they're an accountant, but they have a hobby where they do mosaics. There is something about the accountancy that feeds into the mosaics, and there's something about the mosaics that feeds into the accountancy. Just because it is completely irrelevant on the face of it to the business doesn't mean it's irrelevant to the business. It's actually a part of your truth. And so bringing that out is actually makes you just feel the weight comes off, and I mean, you touched on it. This whole process, this thought that productivity and making money and having a successful business is all about thrashing yourself to death in front of your computer. And it's not. It's about finding space for who you are.
Wow.
And that's something that nature has taught me.
That is it's so amazing. And I, before we recorded, I was saying, I spent the first 17 years of my business, just working. I thought that was what you were supposed to do. Work. You can rest later, you can sleep when you're dead, you can, all these things like that. But if that's not how nature works, I mean, there are rhythms, there's all this, and it just never occurred to me that might be valid.
And the thing is, I mean, I mentioned that I started this from an elemental perspective because the elements are associated with the seasons. So there is this rise and fall. And what business does in particular is that it asks us to be in fire energy, in summer energy, in this full-blown explosion energy all the time. Yeah. That's how you burn out. You cannot stay in that energy. There is a natural rhythm to life where things rise and fall. And it's not that things are living and dying. We kind of misconstrue that because it's about a rise and fall of energy. So there has to be times in your business life when you are comfortable to say, I'm not going to be doing now. I'm actually going to be reflecting, getting a little bit deeper. And that can happen on a daily basis, and that can happen over months. It can happen over years. So when you feel that point in time coming, I just actually need to decompress a little bit here. That is the time that you go out into nature. There are two times that are really, really effective to go out into nature. One is when you need to decompress and you need space. And the other is when you need inspiration, because you'll get it in both cases. And the reason for getting inspiration when you go out into nature is because your brain switches off the do mode and it switches into the what if, how can, and that's all going on in the back of your brain while you're going, isn't it pretty? Aren't those clouds pretty? All of that is happening. And then you come back and you just go, bam, I've worked it out, and I wasn't even thinking about it. So I say to my clients all the time, I said, take your business for a walk. Go outside with your business, take it for a walk and see what it wants to show you. And you'll be guided to a particular place or to linger somewhere which feels a particular way because it's showing you what you need. Wow. And that's why I say it's sensory, because nature communicates with us through our senses. If you think about it, a tree rustles in the breeze, the sound of water flowing, the colors that we see, the sounds of birdsong, all of those things, that's sensory. So it reconnects us to that sensory level of awareness. And that sensory awareness, let me tell you, is extremely important in a business.
Tell me more.
Because we think with our brains all the time, and we can get so tired of being in our brains. But our body is incredibly wise and can communicate with us through our senses. But we shut it down and we don't listen to it, because you know when you've got to do something and you really don't want to do it, but you know you have to do it, and your stomach is in a little bit of a knot, and so you go, oh, I'm not listening to that because I have to do this. That's the kind of the thing that happens to us all the time. So there's little clues that tell us whether or not we're being true to ourselves in our business come from our sensory awareness. So it's like that, we all get it, tightening in the shoulders. You're possibly doing too much, or or you're going slightly off course, or that nagging feeling that you have that you're not listening to is telling you that that's possibly not the best decision to make. So it really tunes you to what's right for you. So the more time you spend in nature, the more sensory awareness you have, and the more sensory awareness you have, the more you bring into your business, so you're better able to tune what you're doing in your business to what's right for you. Which brings me on to another bugbear of mine, which is how people set up their businesses along standard formats which do not take any account of their own individual energy and rhythms and preferences. It's just, these are the rules of business. This is what works, so therefore you shall follow it, even though it's wrong for you. So really, this, for me, it's all about just relaxing, letting go, undoing a lot of that conditioned thought and belief, and saying, oh, you know what, there's another way of doing it.
Wow. That's, you're the perfect guest to be here. All right, please come over immediately to Tennessee. We're going to talk right now. All right, so somebody, I have so many questions at once. Okay, so let's say, it could be a new entrepreneur, it could be an established entrepreneur who's realized, wait a second, the way that I'm doing this is not working. They come to you. What are they hoping that you can help them fix? Like, how do they know? Are they able to point at the problem and go, okay, Polly, please help me with this? Or
that
is it
depends.
They have like symptoms?
Okay, so a newer entrepreneur is most likely going to be holding themselves back from doing things because they go, that doesn't feel right to me. I don't know what the alternative is. So for them, my job is to say, these are the alternatives. This is the way forward, so that they can progress with their entrepreneurial journey on their own terms, which means that they don't hit the second phase, which is the established entrepreneur who has been doing it the standard way, and they have outgrown their business because their label doesn't feel right. They've expanded as a human being. They've taken on all of these new interests and the other things that they want to do, and their business, their label, no longer fits. And they reach that point where you just go, I'm just going to burn my business to the ground. I can't continue like this anymore, so I'm going to burn it to the ground. And my job there is to say, you don't need to burn it down to the ground. You can reinvigorate it by looking at it from a different point of view. So it's two very different parts of the journey, but both equally important, because we've got a new wave of businesses coming in now who have got a very different set of values, and they need the tools to work with. But we also have another group who have sort of like, they've got the medals, they've done the work in the conventional way, and they've now realized that that's not right for them. And they need to course correct. Yeah. And my view is that the more entrepreneurs who go through this process, the better, because it will change the overall business dynamic from this manipulative, extractive, resource intensive business model into one that is much more conscious of the natural world, the social settings that we have and the social constructs that we have, and also support a revised economic model. I mean, because we can't, as individuals, you and I, we can't take on the economic models head on, much as we might need to. We can't do that. So we have to do it from the ground up. And that's the one thing, you know, a lesson from nature. You go out into nature and you look at it, where is the greatest volume of life? It's in the soil.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's in the soil. That is where all life comes from. So if you think about, I like to think about myself and you and whatever as being the soil conditioners, if you like, for what comes next.
Oh,
because we do have this apex mentality. You know, we're sort of like overwhelmed by the apex predators of the world. We should have an immense amount of awe and appreciation of the things we can't see about in the soil that help us to live.
That is so cool. I almost feel a little bit jealous of your clients who come who are new to business and they've already figured that out. It's like that's amazing that they would have such insight and such to be able to like I don't know that I would have even recognized that heading down the other way is going to be fruitless, you know.
It is a tricky one because you get very much into your head about, right, I need to be doing. So the problem there is that people then focus on the external aspects of their business. They, what programs am I going to offer? What resources am I going to have? What email list am I going to choose? And what platforms? And they get so focused on that they disconnect, because it's all about, I need to make this business successful. And of course you need to make this business successful. But the problem is, in order to make it successful on your terms, you've got to do some of the other work. You've actually got to look at, why don't you believe in that particular approach? You've got to dig into it. And if you don't dig into it, nothing that you do that is meant to be on your own terms is going to stick, because it'll be undermined by some thinking that isn't right for you.
That's incredible. All right, so somebody comes to you, it could be, either type of client like this. What does it look like to work with you?
Well, I kind of work in a very unconventional way. So just to put it into context, I started out as a marketing consultant, then I moved into marketing mentoring. And then after a certain period of time, I just went, I need to lose the title marketing because it's too limiting for what I want to do. So I moved into business design so that I could have this holistic view of the business from cradle to grave, if you like. So I work with people through the specific aspects of business that need to be addressed. And by that I mean, it's like, what is the energy that drives this business? Not what are you going to do with it? I got so fed up with people asking me to help with the websites and stuff like this. Like, that's not what I do. So it's like, what is the energy behind this? What is your vision? What is it that you are really aiming for? Now, here's the thing. Most people have a mental vision. They don't have a connection to the energy that drives it. And the energy that drives it comes from who you are. So what I do is I actually dismantle the different, strands of energy that are in part of that. So I'll say we'll work with the vision specifically on one occasion, and then we'll work with the what is the transformation that you're actually offering people. And then we'll work with what is the energy of the client that you want to work with, not a client avatar. It's like, what is the energy of that client? So I talk, for example, about states of being. It's like, what is the state of being? Not what color shoes they wear, what size shoes they wear, what car they drive. What is their state of being? So I work with that from a much more sensory based approach, so that people are saying, oh, do you know what? When I think about that aspect of it, I get this real sense of expansion in my body. It's like maybe my upper back expands. Or when I think about doing what I have been doing, I'm now aware that my stomach is turning in knots. I don't like that feeling. So by doing it on a sensory basis, it unlocks a deeper intuitive awareness of what is actually going on inside your business. And the beauty of that means that you can tweak an aspect of your business without destroying your whole business, because you understand basically how it works as an ecosystem. That's how I frame it. Your business is an ecosystem of different parts, and if they are not all working together, then they're working against each other, which is sabotaging your business success. So you want to have basic ecosystem principles in there of how does one thing feed another? How does it work as a system? And so it's flipping. I mean, obviously I've done my stuff in the conventional line of things. So there's a lot to learn from that, but it's about saying, let's look at it a slightly different way, rather than thinking, yeah, okay, that's how it's done. No, let's look at the principle from a different angle and see what we can create, because that's spring for you. Spring breaks boundaries. It doesn't have any limits. So we can say, well, let's take a bit of spring energy, the air energy, and say, well, what else can we do here? Because everybody is incredibly creative, but I don't know another field of endeavor quite like business where it crushes your creativity.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about saying you are creative and you do know what you can do. You just don't believe that you can do it.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're a farmer that has been, around long enough. You did the traditional methods, and you've seen, the mayhem, the fruitlessness, the withering that happens, all of this.
I'm now a regenerative farmer.
Yeah, now you're able to go, wait, God, like this, and we're bombarded with all no, this is how you're supposed to do it, and you're able to go, I've been there. I have that T-shirt. This is probably not the way you want to go, and it's for sure not the only way to go.
It's certainly not the only way. I mean, and that is the number one lesson of nature. There is never one solution to a problem. And just look at the extraordinary diversity of life on this earth, and you know that there is never one solution to a problem.
Yeah,
it's multiple solutions, and that's something we can really help ourselves with as entrepreneurs, is to be able to say, well, yeah, I'm really not limited in any shape or form. And the first thing that you can start to do with that is to start to take a little bit of one thing and a little bit of another, and see what you can do to hybridize them. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as a lead generation. Mm-hmm. Well, why does it have to be delivered in a certain format? Mm. Why does it have to look a certain way? It can look any way you want it to. Mm-hmm. And so, you can just play, really experiment and play. I mean, that's where I'm at my best, is when I'm playing and experimenting. So
that's such a great thing, because that's the byproduct, I think, of hustle culture. I reached a point where somebody was asking, well, how do you play? How do you celebrate? And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. I'll do that later. I don't deserve to play yet. I don't deserve to I don't have enough to celebrate yet.
Yeah.
And it's a sickness, it's very, it's disturbing. It's sad. It's crushing. It's like walking with this 80-pound boulder on yourself all the time. Yeah. Talk to me about how do you do, I'm so excited by this. So with your background, especially having, come from marketing, and now you just mentioned Jen, how are you generating leads, finding those audiences to getting in touch with your perfect person?
I think about it in the way of neural networks is the thing that I've often said, but let's put it into a different context. Mycelium. Now, mycelium, they spread out, and they've got these amazing problem-solving skills that I don't know if I'm reading an Entangled Life at the moment, and Melanie Sheldrake was saying in there that they gave mycelium a model of Tokyo to work out how to put the underground into the best format, and the mycelium mapped the existing format perfectly. So I think about business like that. It's like, stop thinking about I have to be in certain places, let me be in places that make sense. So that where people are open to, like, this is a perfect example. This is a neural pathway. So I don't think about that. I can't be doing with social media. I really can't. I've not got the energy so I'd rather be talking long form, which I do in, blogs or whatever, and going on podcasts where I can actually have a conversation about something. Because short form content is not my thing. Many years ago, I did a qualification in copywriting, and I asked my tutor at the end of it, and I said, what advice do you have? Where am I best positioned? And he said, not short form, go long form. And it's, even though I've tried to avoid it in my early days in business, I'm not a short form person. There's too many things going through my head. So I think about it in a different way. So I might have some of my talks on place like Insight Timer. So I'm reaching people who are in a more contemplative ecological state, or Substack, where people are interested in going that little bit deeper. And I'm just trying lots of, I'll go wherever feels right to me, creating this mycelial network where people can contact with me, but holding it in I'm a big fan of simplicity, because you don't want to overextend yourself. But it's about seeking that out and connecting with people like you, there are days when I just think, am I a lone voice? And then I remember to myself that no, there's people like you out there who are doing their thing with this. And the more we all connect and talk to each other, the better. So it's just finding it in a more organic way. I'm pretty sure I did take the decision very early on that I did not ever want to get myself stuck into that cycle of having to advertise my business. And to be honest, even if I was, I'm like going, how many people would I find through advertising who genuinely want what I do?
Yeah. I mean, even being able to put it into, like, ads are, by definition, it's going to be pretty small.
Yeah.
What on earth would you even put so that somebody goes, oh, that's me?
I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea, because it's too complicated. It needs to be based in a story for people to go, oh, there needs to be quite a lot of background that says, oh, that's the pattern I'm in. Yeah. I hadn't actually stopped to think about that. So it's kind of complicated. So I'm not sure that I ever would. Like SEO doesn't work for me.
No, what would you even use for a keyword? It's crazy.
I have no idea.
I mean, that's so what. But one thing does pop into mind is case studies. So as you've had clients and then telling their story, because, the storytelling, I think this is just perfect for storytelling, and you highlight them and you tell, and it's like somebody's going to go, that's me.
It is. And I do take bits and pieces, but I also have this very strong reaction to when I see people talking about their clients. My first reaction is, I hope they got their permission. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So, but that's my personal reaction to it. So I actually have, and I say this to my clients, is I don't talk about you. I won't talk about you. I might take some bits and pieces into another story, but so you're right. Case studies are incredibly valuable, but also, on another side of it, is that case studies can also then limit you, because we're still in that space where we are thinking, so-and-so has got this blueprint for doing that, and so-and-so, another person has got this blueprint. So it's almost like, well, if I replicate that, then I will have their success, which could not be further from the truth.
Right. You're an apple tree, you're an orange tree.
Exactly. And everybody has to have a unique solution for them. Yeah. Because if it's not built around them, it's not going to work.
Yeah, man. All right, so mycelium, I get that. That is fascinating with the mycelium network. I definitely feel like, the more of us who are kind of walking the same path. I had once heard that redwood trees are connected, they're huge, giant trees, and they're connected, underground. And that's how they stand up. They're so big, they should not be able to, looking at it physics wise, it's like, how's that standing up? But when we connect like that, and then I could see, it could take some time and definitely some persistence, I think, to be able to get your message out there to reach these people. How do you, well, let me ask you first, like, when you look for, the next 2 to 5, 10 years, like, what do you want to become? What do you want your business to become?
I feel very strongly that my business is going to become more about talking and writing and just, in the way that there are some amazing writers out there who are writing some extraordinarily influential stuff. Maybe much, working with bigger groups. Right now, I have to work with individuals because they're not networked.
Right.
There isn't an underground movement, if you like, of people. There are people who are poking their heads up and they're saying this is really important.
Wow.
And that's why it's so important that we all connect, because it then does become that network that holds the redwood trees up.
Yeah.
Because we do need each other. So at the moment it needs to be in, that one-to-one small group space. But over time, for me, it's about changing our culture, changing the way that we perceive nature, changing the way that we perceive our societies and our roles in societies and how we're expected to function. So there's definitely this space of we need to connect more to ourselves and understand ourselves more outside of those social norms. And then there's a rebuilding of community that has to happen, because we're going to have to break down some of our constructs of community in order to rebuild them. So it is, you're right, it's a long-term, really long-term goal. And that's possibly why I don't have sort of like a plan for the next 5 years. It's like, I've got to respond in the moment to where it's going. And there's more and more opportunities coming every day. I started this, I've been in my business for 10 years. And I've been talking about some of the things that I talk about the destructive nature of business for very, very many years. And for a long time, I was the only person, but I am not anymore. And that is wonderful, because it means we're moving in the right direction.
That's, the patience that you have, the long, and
Stubborn.
I admire this. I was being very, very polite.
No, I'm stubborn.
Tenacity, stubborn. Yeah, I get you. The level of that stubbornness, that persistence, that's huge. I feel like I would also, and as I'm starting to grow in this too, I kind of craving that almost like co-farmers to come and help, so that it can grow. Like, one person's watering, one person's weeding, one's fertilizing, all this kind of thing. Are there things that you kind of crave, like some as far as getting your message out? And granted, getting on more stages, that's one thing, but it seems like that might be a result. Is there a process wise that you're kind of, anything that you're craving that would help move this along for you as well? Or are you just, going to take it at the pace that it goes?
I'm happy to take it at the pace that it goes, but it's about conversation. Because our critical thinking collectively has taken a pounding. So conversation allows us to start to revitalize our critical thinking, our analysis, our ability to think for ourselves. And that's the first step. So anything that I say that might say to people, oh, hang on a second, that's a win for me. But in terms of personally craving, it's just being able to have conversations when somebody says, no, I absolutely get that. Do you know? Because sometimes you're just talking to people, looking at you and they go, what the hell are you talking about?
Right, this woman, that's
yeah. And I really want to this year start to take my work into teams in corporations, to get them to think about how do they build teams in a more natural way, because that's the next, it's one of the next things to focus on.
And in your prior marketing life, had you worked with that type of organization? Like, do you kind of have the lay of the land on that, or are you going to be feeling your way?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, certainly not some of the, the very corporates. I kind of need to break my teeth on some of the ones that are startups. That they're definitely going to be B Corp, sort of sustainably focused. I cut my teeth on that one first, before I start thinking about, oh yeah, KPMG, you're in my sights.
I'm picturing like they're very buttoned up with the suit and tie and all, what?
Amigo.
I'm not a tree hugger. It's like, this is not about hugging trees, although you might. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, even just sitting under one would be a starting point for many people who have, never see the light of day. They go in when it's dark, they come out when it's dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then their only option is to take 2 weeks off or whatever, and get out into the great outdoors. And then it's a massive culture shock. It's you can't process it.
You can't. And I remember back in those days, I would take a 2-week vacation. The first 3-4 days it took to calm down. The next several I would enjoy, but then I would have that dread of, oh no, I only have 5 days left, and then kind of a depression coming out. And at one point I almost thought, I would almost rather not go through that whole journey. I would rather just work, because it was too painful to, the anticipation, the letdown, the depression that followed, oh, wow, I got a whole nother year before I can do this. And you said something too about, starting initially with the smaller ones that have a focus on sustainability. Before, I used to always equate, sustainability was like, okay, the products that you're creating are not actually harming the earth. They could be, but it's inside sustainability too. And that's like that. Are people responding to that message? Are they hearing that? Are you finding people like going, oh?
No, they are, because the burnout is such a massive issue now. So yes, the people are just going, oh, you mean I don't have to? Oh, but it runs really deep, this productivity thing. It's like, if you're not actually sitting at your desk, you're not working. I call BS on that. It's not true. You can be more productive away from your desk many, many times, and even more productive if that away time is out in nature.
And we're outliers in this, as you know, but I feel like a lot of the people that I talk with, it's like they've either gotten that, or if they're on the podcast, they already have a grasp on this in some way, shape, or form. But the audience, that I speak to, that this goes out to, I know a lot of them personally. I know that they've come through that hustle. We all listen to Gary Vaynerchuk or Grant Cardone, that work, and they're starting to see, these folks are losing marriages. They're losing their health. They are, reaching a point where it's a massive change for them rather than a gradual by choice. Like, that's with the long-term view that we have to have, and the challenges that come from, the short form is not, it's not really financially. How do you sustain this? Like, you still have to have clients coming in for you to be able to do your thing. Are you finding that you're getting enough clients to, to keep this boat floating long enough to do where you want to go?
I mean, it definitely does wax and wane depending on what's going on in the world. It definitely does, but I found that the more a network, the easier it becomes, and then you get, because there are two paths in, if you like. There's the path in where people are nurtured along to the point where they're ready, and then there's the path when people just go, that's it, I get it, and they come straight in. And my business is actually sustained by the people who come straight in, but that does not mean I am going to not do the nurturing, because I've got that long-term view.
Right.
So, but networking, and I don't mean networking as in going to networking events, but, you know, connecting with people, having those conversations. It is the best way to create a long-term sustainable thing that actually also gives you some short-term sustainability as financial sustainability. But I've always you've got to spend maybe 80% of the 80-20 rule. You've got to spend 80% of your time working on immediate sustainability. But if you forget about the 20% of time on the long-term sustainability, you will hit, it'll be that classic journey.
Yes.
There will not be consistency in it, and that will be exhausting.
Yeah.
And then you'll tell yourself you're not cut out for it, which is a load of rubbish, because you wouldn't have had this idea, this notion, if you weren't cut out for it.
So amazing. You know, that I'm just getting this mental picture of, you know, that again with like sowing seeds. It's like you're sowing and sowing, and it doesn't pop up the next day. You know,
No.
there's some nurturing that has to happen, and in its time, you know, there's different germination periods for all kinds of different plants. And so, you know, I know in our gardens we do, you know, here's some things that are come up soon. Here's some things that are going to take about 60 days. Here's 90 days. All right, we got garlic. That's what, 9 months before, like 9 months before it's going to finally, you know, come up.
So well, see, a lot of what I talk about is that longer term stuff, but then I can take some of those things which are, you know, the salads of this world, and do them. So I will pull out a very specific thing. So I might say to my audience, right, do you want to know about an alternative view of developing your niche? And do something like that, so that I can sustain it in the short term by doing the salad crops.
Microgreens, right?
Yeah, microgreens. But I'm never forgetting about the fact that actually I'm planting a forest.
Goodness. All right, that's the quote. That is so huge. All right,
Microgreens.
Yeah, microgreens in a forest. You know, like, oh, that's incredible. How do you spend your time outside? Where, like, what's the scene where you're in, where most of these amazing ideas are coming, and how do you capture them?
Okay, so I mean, as you know, I'm in a very, I mean, they're little mountains. They're not US style mountains, but they're little mountains, but they're mountains. So I'm right at the foot of the mountains. Well, actually, I'm probably really sea level point of view. I'm halfway up them, because it only takes like 40 minutes to walk up the mountain. So it's not. Anyway. It's wild, and it's open, and so I'm just wandering and looking most of the time. And one thing, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I started this project where I'm recording the music of wild plants out in the wild. So I quite often will go and sit with a plant for 10-15 minutes while I'm recording it. So I'm just wandering, and I'm looking. And I haven't got the best eyesight in the world, but I'm, you know, looking at details, and I'm looking at bigger stuff. And then I do this, I have a weekly email that I send out to people, which is just a quote, which I have got direct from nature when I've been out in nature. So I very rapidly learned that I was never going to remember that, and particularly when I get 5 on the trot straight. Yes. So I use Google Keep, which's got voice recognition on it. So I mean, it doesn't make sense a lot of the time. I have to go, what? But I'll come back and I will just transcribe that as soon as I get home. And it's just the easiest way of doing it, because I can just talk while I'm walking, keeping an eye on the dogs or whatever. And so there's just a really easy way for me to capture it. You just go, that was a cracking quote. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my goodness. I truly wish you were here. Like, this would be, you know, with the retreat center, you're the type of speaker, you're the type of coach that I want to have here to really, you've explained what I have these beginning ideas, you know, and I'm shocked, like, oh, wow, this, and you're a little bit further a lot maybe further in this journey. And it's just, it's actually, I'm I'm gobsmacked. This is what the wisdom you have gathered already. This is fantastic. Where can people find out more about working with you and read? It might take a little while for them to soak this in. But where can they get started?
Well, the best thing to do is I have I will link it from my main website. Go to my website, which is pollyhearsey.co.uk, and then I've got spaces where you can go and explore nature, you can go and explore the elements, you can go and explore energy and look at the different things that I have. But the one thing that I think would be most valuable to this particular audience is I have this guided audio journey called Nature's Mirror, which is a chance for you to see yourself in nature. And it's done through deep connection to 5 different aspects of nature. So I think it's a beautiful, just simple guided journey to connect you with your truth and with yourself. And I'd love for people to go on that little journey and see where it takes them.
That's so great. And they can find that, I can find this through your website.
Yes, it's on my website.
Wonderful. Polly, thank you so much for being here. This is already one of my favorite interviews.
Oh, well, thank you so much. As I said to you, it is just lovely to talk and meet with fellow thinkers.
Yeah. Oh man, so good, so good.